The impact of COVID-19 reaches across our Insider Public Affairs program now each week. Hello and welcome to the Insider. I'm Lisa Adams. Welcome to our viewers and to our listeners on the radio as well. We continue today with our COVID-19 focused editions of the program. And today it's all about Penn State Behrend's plans for the fall semester. My guest is Dr. Ralph Ford, Chancellor of Penn State Behrend. Welcome.
Thank you for having me here, Lisa.
How challenging is this time for higher ed as you plan to resume in-person classes while knowing we're still in the midst of this pandemic?
It is, I think without question, one of the most challenging, if not the most challenging time that higher ed has faced. It's just not the pandemic, it's the economic issues. It is, international issues, immigration. There's just a tremendous amount that we are facing right now. But as you indicated, we're planning to come back this fall.
Yeah, so I checked on your website and you have a back to state plan for Penn State Behrend. I have sort of the philosophical quote here of what that's all about. So you do plan to start the fall semester on August 24th with on-campus in-person classes and a flexible instructional model that includes remote and online learning. So talk about how that plays out, that flexible idea.
Sure. We are under a tremendous number of restrictions in order to meet the social distancing guidelines and ensure the health and safety of our faculty, staff, and students. So let me just talk a little bit about that first, because just from a logistics viewpoint, that drives an awful lot. Your classroom capacity automatically changes. It reduces to about a third of what your normal capacity is. So what we're doing is we're working very carefully with our faculty right now to deliver a residential experience. It's going to be a mix of three things. It'll be your traditional face-to-face classes. It will be a hybrid where you'll have some of your class in a remote mode. Maybe you're sitting in your residence hall or in a classroom and watching your lecture online, and then that would have a face-to-face component, and some of it may be fully remote and will be fully remote or online. So it will be that mix of those three modes of delivery.
A lot of schools, you included, seem to have this idea of leaving for the Thanksgiving break and not coming back. You'll leave on November 20th, but your semester won't be over, right?
That's correct. So our semester will end on December 20th, but after the Thanksgiving break, our students won't be returning, but we'll continue to deliver instruction remotely for the last 2 weeks of classes and final exams, which of course we have experience doing that from this last semester. The idea there, of course, is we're all anticipating that there could be this second wave, and we need to be very cognizant of that's the time when it could hit. So it makes a lot of sense for us to pull back at that time.
Across Penn State Behrend, who all has been involved in the planning and decision making for this sort of hybrid flexible model that you've come up with?
Yeah, great question. What we did was, it was about May. I think we were really trying to anticipate what would happen, and we developed a team, or it's actually a series of teams. We're calling our Back to Campus teams or Back to Behrend teams. And they encompass everything from instruction, how are we going to handle our instructional mission, our research mission, our return to research, that's already happening this summer, operations, and how do we interact with the outside world in terms of outreach. So that is a mix of faculty, administrators, and staff from around the campus.
What about labs? We know how important your plastics, your engineering. What about labs, sports, other on-campus activities? Are there separate plans for each of those things? Can they happen?
Yes, they can happen. And each one is handled individually, so a tremendous amount of planning. But let's take laboratories. So laboratories is vitally important for our students, for their educational progress. What will we have? Yeah, our students will go into the laboratories. They will be wearing masks. We can talk more about that, but masking is an absolutely key component of any successful strategy. But in addition to that, our faculty will be wearing masks, and perhaps face shields, so that they can work a little bit closer with the students in that environment. But we will have laboratories, and each of them is different. A chemistry lab is different than a plastics lab, is different than a biology lab. So our faculty are really the ones who understand it. They're working through that. They're the ones who are driving how we will deliver in each of those scenarios. Then you take athletics, if you want me to continue on. Athletics is, we have state guidelines, we have NCAA guidelines. What you will see there is, for example, social distancing in the stands. You'll see students who are on the team standing at a safe distance on the sideline and wearing their masks. But when they're in play right now, our understanding, as much as we know right now from everything that the guidance provides, is that they can compete without masks.
And I suppose you might need a small army to enforce all the things that we're talking about. But what about outbreaks? How will Penn State Behrend handle any outbreaks in a communal living situation? I mean, there's so much attention right now to young people in this demographic as spreaders, as they associate socially, bars, parties. I mean, certainly Pittsburgh is having an explosive issue right now. You might say they're seeing their second wave.
Yeah, this, I like to think of it this way. I say we have a playbook, and the good thing is the playbook is known, but it's not necessarily easy to execute, and it involves testing and contact tracing. But to get to your specific question, how do you handle outbreaks? First of all, I think we should all have the mindset that outbreaks will occur, right? I think it's naive to assume otherwise. So we'll be testing on campus, asymptomatic, as well as, of course, symptomatic testing. And when you identify an outbreak, the important thing is to first quarantine those students. We have quarantine facilities on campus. And then do contact tracing. Go through, find out who have they been in contact with, who might have infected them, who might they have infected. So we have trained contact tracers on our campus. There's going to be a Penn State-wide contact tracing approach. So we feel very confident that we've got that mechanism in place. That doesn't mean that it's not very serious and that you have to be watching it. You have to be looking at the data. You have to be monitoring what's happening and then responding. And I think that's what you're going to see in the Pittsburgh area right now is changes are made. I think we have to understand that this is to be expected as we learn, as we move through this pandemic.
Well, when we come back, every plan has a backup plan. We're going to look at that and talk about concerns brewing for international students and their visas as well. Stay with us. Welcome back to The Insider. I'm Lisa Adams. My guest again is Dr. Ralph Ford, Chancellor of Penn State Behrend. We're talking about plans for instruction starting in the 2021 school year. So as we said, every plan has a backup plan. What are your backup plans and when will you decide which option you choose? I mean, you're talking about this very robust plan, but some people feel like colleges and universities may be preparing for something that just won't happen. So is this really going to happen?
Right now, this is our plan. I believe it will happen. Yes. What are we looking at? We're putting in all precautions for the health and safety of our students, our faculty, our staff, and our community. Now, I can't predict the future and tell you what might happen if there were a substantial outbreak in the area. It would require, we operate under the governor's orders, and if those were to change such that we were to go to red, we obviously couldn't deliver at that point. But our plan, as it is today, is to deliver this on-campus experience this fall.
What about the relationship between Penn State Behrend and University Park? Are you making decisions here in lockstep, or will decisions be based on virus cases in geographic locations?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, one thing to understand about Penn State University is we are one university. We're distributed around the Commonwealth. So myself and many other leaders on our campus and faculty and staff, they are involved in planning groups that are at University Park. I hate to even say that. They're across the university, as well as ones that are specific here for Behrend. I do think there could be a differentiated approach depending on what happens in the future. So if Philadelphia were to change in a significantly different way than Erie, we might move to different modes of instruction based upon that. But I think we're keeping our options open and flexible, and I think that's what these times require.
You mentioned a couple of things. You talked about research resuming, but you also talked about masking. So you're doing some actual research on masking, and masking will definitely be required all the time on campus. I mean, we hear about, you know, like if an enthusiastic professor is lecturing and you're in the front row and they're, you know, positive and asymptomatic, so how are you going to handle that?
Yeah, masking is key. The science is clear that people wearing masks protects others, and we are following that. So the requirement for anyone who's on campus, except for example, if you're in your office and you're alone, you have to be wearing your mask, and that extends to our students, faculty, and staff. Students and faculty will be wearing masks in the classroom. That we know that prevents transmission, as well as having the physical distancing that we have, as well as the sanitation measures. Interesting that you asked the question about, geez, how, you know, faculty members need to communicate with the students. We know that we have to work through some of these issues, but we're doing some studies internally at Penn State to determine, for example, what are the best types of masks for projection, voice projection, so that our students can hear us. We're combining that with technology, basically microphones and amplifiers and speakers in the classroom that we didn't have there before. We think we've got a pretty good idea about what mask and microphone combinations work the best. So that's how we get through to our students and communicate clearly with them.
And do you provide masks to your students so they're the ones that you know are safe? We're hearing so much about masks. The cotton ones don't really work. They get wet. They cause other health issues, blah, blah. So will you provide a certain kind of mask to Penn State students, and will they say Penn State on them?
We are providing 2 masks to everybody, students, faculty, and staff. And they will be Penn State branded. And I think the reality, you know, of masks is everyone has their own personal preferences, and I think by this time everyone should have a mask, and they should expect to be wearing one when they come to campus. So we're not going to be too picky about what type of mask you wear. The answer is wear a mask. Don't get too concerned about the details. Find one that you find to be comfortable and works for you. And if you're concerned about coming back, start wearing it for a few hours a day. I've been doing that, and you'll find that you can start to make the adjustment.
All right, switching gears a bit here. What about the news that the Trump administration wants to strip foreign students of their visas if coursework does have to move entirely online? I mean, the day we're recording here, Harvard and MIT are suing the Trump administration over that in federal court. How might it impact Penn State Behrend? What's your percentage of international students?
Typically, we have anywhere between 5 and 7% of our students are international. This ruling from the Trump administration certainly does make our life a little bit more difficult, and it makes it more difficult for our international students. But I believe with those methods, or the modes of delivery that we have, that we discussed earlier, we can meet that. All you have to do is make sure that your students are getting part of their education face-to-face. So we have international students who are here on campus. Frankly, some of them, you know, they never left because they couldn't return to their home country. So if they're on campus, and they'll be taking courses just like our U.S.-based students, and that will be a mix of face-to-face, remote, online, and as long as they have at least one course that is face-to-face, they should be fine. Now, for those international students who are out there and who are listening, I strongly recommend that you reach out to your academic advisor. There are nuances to this. I know we can't get into all of them, but we're working through all of the details. We've already put out a frequently asked question list for all of our community to be looking at as to how we think we can handle this.
All right, Penn State Behrend and University Park faculty took their worries to Penn State's president in an open letter and took it public in a news release last week. And Chancellor Ford's thoughts on that when we come back. Welcome back again to The Insider. I'm Lisa Adams, and we're talking with Dr. Ralph Ford, Chancellor of Penn State Behrend, all about how Behrend plans to handle the start of the fall semester. So faculty from Penn State Behrend and University Park sent out a long letter to President Eric Behrend, and then a news release to us in the news media late last week that they are concerned because of their age, their risks, even their tenure and their livelihood. Here's just an excerpt from that letter. They said, especially troubling is the limited amount of input faculty, staff, and graduate employees have had on decisions related to our safety, our job security, allocation of resources and academic freedom to teach in the manner we deem most effective at this time. This was a very long letter. Over 1,000 faculty and staff had signed it at the point in time that I got it in my email. So have their voices been heard in this process, and how will University Park and Penn State Behrend handle that if faculty is afraid or unwilling to be in even the spread out classes?
I've seen the letter, and I think the faculty made a lot of really important points that we need to understand. And one of the top ones that you hit there right at the end is, how do they come back into the classroom? Are they afraid? If they're afraid or unwilling to come back into the classroom, are we forcing them into the classroom? The answer is absolutely not. We've come up with a really good process to address those concerns. We've worked with our faculty over the last several weeks since we made the announcement to say, you determine whether or not you want to come back into the classroom. I'll say that again. They determine whether or not they want to come back into the classroom. No questions asked. And there's a variety of opinions. Many want to come back, some for very good reasons. Either they have pre-existing conditions or they have family members who they're concerned about, and we're having them working out on a program by program, department by department basis, and asking them to work very carefully and thoughtfully together. I think we're coming to a really good approach about how we deliver our courses on campus this fall.
How challenging is that? I mean, I've taught adjunct a little bit, and I know that it's frustrating as a faculty member when some of your students are, oh, I'm traveling with the sports team. Can you deliver to me what I need differently, or can I make up that exam? Or, so when you're doing this, a mix of this and a mix of that, and you're trying to figure out how many students are enrolling, how many students in this course, how many faculty members will be in the class. I mean, is there a drop dead date by which those faculty members have to tell you, hey, I want to do the whole fall semester from my house, or what?
Yeah, well, actually most of the work is done. We have a good sense of where we're at right now. Officially, we're putting it into the system within the next week or so, then students will see that and start making choices. But we've gone even further and said, if you want to change your mode of instruction up to and the start of the semester, you are welcome to do so. So there's still flexibility based on what happens. And what happens in your level of risk and comfort. So we're just trying to make sure we provide every bit of information about the masking policy, how we're doing testing, contact tracing, so people can make that decision themselves.
Schools were really forced to go into this remote delivery mode on a dime there back in the springtime. What did you learn at Penn State Behrend about that process? Was your faculty all equally technology savvy and prepared to do that? Are they doing lecture style teaching? Are they doing interactive teaching? Do you have a uniformity of technology across the campus? How are you learning about that?
Yeah, well, first of all, I mean, it's just tremendous what the university did, and as well as Behrend and our faculty and staff. I think it's something we really just cannot underestimate what an undertaking it was. And within a few short days, we went from delivering face-to-face to remote. And that's over 1,200 course sections here at Penn State Behrend. We didn't miss a single day of classes. I'm very proud of that. I think we were very ready because we have a tremendous amount of technical capability within Penn State through our World Campus and many other modes of delivery. So yeah, we have many faculty who were very savvy. We have some who it provided challenges for, but we did everything from providing remote Wi-Fi for them, all of the support that we could. And what's interesting about it is many who might previously not have thought about teaching remote or online really see a different way of teaching and delivering to our students. It doesn't mean that they're going to change all of it, but that they'll become more adept and more open, I think, in understanding how they can deliver more effectively in a variety of ways.
Well, there are plenty of immediate concerns as that August date inches closer, but what might the long-term impact of COVID-19 be on higher ed? We'll talk about that when we come back. Welcome back. We've been talking with Ralph Ford, Chancellor of Penn State Behrend, about the challenging times for colleges and universities with the COVID-19 pandemic continuing. So how do students and parents' views on all of this differ?
Yeah, the good thing is we have a lot of data already on what parents and students think. And by and large, it's not uniform, but I would say you tend to see 70 to 80% are very much looking forward to a return to campus this fall. They want that traditional environment, even though they recognize it will be different this fall.
Can you share some information on enrollment, how it compares this year to last year, or what's normal? And what about your incoming freshmen? Are those the most nervous parents because their kids have never been sent off to college yet, and now they're going under this situation?
Yeah, that's fair to say. So we've had to move, for example, our new student orientation online, but we've taken that as an opportunity as well to change the program and I think deliver in a way that we hadn't in the past. So I think we will learn from that. We will have some new ways of carrying out orientation, and maybe students don't have to spend as much time on campus to prepare. So that is that is the number one question. We're having sessions with parents and students where we hear their concerns. We tell them what it will look like. It is absolutely a much different conversation with the first-year students, but returning students have questions as well.
So enrollment, is it impacted by this?
Oh, and we don't know the full impact yet because students are still making decisions. I had a good friend of mine contact me the other day whose daughter just was accepted at Behrend, and he's told me, gee, she waited so long she wasn't sure what she wanted to do. So we're connecting him. Yeah, I think all colleges and universities are seeing an impact. We're optimistic. We think that it will continue to change people's view as we go through this fall semester. But no doubt, everyone is seeing an impact on their enrollment.
So this was already a really competitive environment for higher ed. So will colleges and universities be feeling the effects of COVID-19 long after there's a vaccine or a treatment?
Yeah, nobody is exempted, whether it's business, industry, community organizations. We have several years of a recovery in this country, economic, social, many others. The way I like to view it is what we're doing here as a university in coming back. This is vitally important to our community. We have so many constituents who are looking to us, and they all have different viewpoints. And I believe if we can successfully navigate this as an institution, it can help lead the way for the rest of the country.
We're just about out of time, about a minute to go, but looking on the sunny side here, will the value of an in-person education possibly be more appreciated than ever because when you can't do something, you want to do it more?
That's interesting because I think that what you'd heard for many years is why haven't you switched to a fully remote environment or online? The reality is we're learning through this just how important it is to be face-to-face with our students. The mix will change, but I don't think you'll ever change that. We're humans, we're social creatures, we learn from one another in a face-to-face manner.
You talked about the international students reaching out to their advisor, but what's the best way to stay up to date on what Penn State Behrend is doing? How should your students and staff track your decisions? Is it on the website or do you reach out to them?
It's a variety of methods. On the website, if you go there very prominently, you'll see a link to our coronavirus information. We're doing regular town halls on campus, and the answer is simple. If you have a question, don't hesitate. Reach out to any of the administrators on campus. Students, reach out to your faculty advisors. The answer is reach out. We will get you the information.
All right, and that start date again, August 24th?
August 24th.
All right. Dr. Ralph Ford, thank you so much for being with us. As always, thank you for being with us too. And if you have an idea for us to explore on The Insider, just email me at ladams@wicu12.com and join us again next time for The Insider.
Thank you, Lisa.